side, we'll go the other, because we don't have a lot of time. Yeah.
I want to thank you for being here. My name's John Lionel.
Are you related to Susie?
No. When you talked about sending bills to the conference committee, and that's when we needed to stand firm, I have a real problem with the way we have not stood firm. That you hear in the media about we need to compromise. We've been compromising with ourselves, and that's not the way to go. We need to see something in writing on the table, then we'll make a compromise, such as this conference committee. And I don't know if you're aware of who Speaker Boehner appointed to the super committee today. I know a couple representatives from Michigan, but
Probably the chairman of Ways and Means is one of them. Yeah. Hensley.
and Hensley, yes.
Who else?
Right opposite.
Upton.
Right up there.
Not exactly the people that I would have selected on that committee.
Well, no, I tell you, Hensley and those two I think will be very good. Hensley and
Dave Camp.
Camp. They'll be fine.
That's
The problem that you have is not the three that Boehner appoints, or the three that you need to make sure that the people that are appointed by the minority leader in the Senate, McConnell, and Boehner, are people that are going to hold fast. And they'll be, what I'm worried about is you only need one person to peel off to say, okay, we're going to raise taxes, and then you come back with maybe some spending cuts, but also tax increases, which would be a disaster.
Well, one of the Gang 6 proposals was to do away with the mortgage exemption, and that's a non-starter for me, because if we can spend hundreds of billions of dollars to put people in housing that they can't afford, we can spend hundreds of billions of dollars or whatever it is for the mortgage deduction for my kids to afford housing.
Well, I don't think that's going. I don't think the mortgage deduction is going to be done away with. So I just tell you, I don't see that happening. Millions and millions and millions of Americans have mortgages. They factored in all their lives the cost of their monthly payment, and so I don't think that's going to be a problem. But as far as the conferences committee is concerned, that's the way our government's set up. You can't really change that. What we have done in the House is we've said a bill has to lay on the desk for 72 hours, 3 days, so people have a chance to read it and study it. But sometimes that is just not enough. Obamacare was this thick, 2,700 pages. And I can tell you right now, they just found out yesterday that there's another $50 billion in additional expenditures that will probably have to be made for dependents. So we need to make sure that we have plenty of time. But once a bill leaves the House and leaves the Senate, it then goes to this conference committee, and that's where in the past there's been a lot of chicanery because a lot of the pork bill projects and special things that Congressman wanted were stuck in. I think those days are over.
One last point on tax reform, if I could. I know that we can't do anything about it now, but in 2013 when we can, what's your feeling on my personal preference is a national sales tax to replace the income tax? Either that or...
I'm a co-sponsor of the flat tax and fair tax. Right now, what we need to do is we need to cut capital gains to zero for at least a couple of years. We need to cut business taxes. We have the highest business taxes in the world. And Hershey just went to Mexico. The Hershey, I mean, a big part of their operation is. We're losing a lot of BVD, I think, is down there too. So, but there's a lot of disencouragement for business to stay in America through the environmental agencies, through our tax system, through regulations. And so, if we had a tax holiday, plus one of the things that's recommended right now or been brought up was to give a tax holiday for 2 years for businesses to come back, plus for each employee that they hire, there's a tax deduction. And doing those sorts of things, as Ronald Reagan did when he cut taxes, will stimulate economic recovery. A lot of you don't remember, but in the early 80s, we had 21.5% interest. We had 12% unemployment, and we had and we had inflation that was about 14%, and Volcker raised the interest rates to stop the inflation. It was actually, from that standpoint, as bad or worse than it is today. Reagan came in, they wanted to raise taxes, and he said no, and they cut taxes. He used the approach that giving people in business more money to invest and spend would stimulate growth, and it did. And we had about 20 years of growth. Now, I know there were some problems with it, so you don't need to go into all the minutiae about that, but it does work. And what we need to do right now is create incentives for business and individuals to expand. Okay, who's